name is Mike Soley. This is Jeff Salantono, and we are so honored to have Stephanie Phillips here today.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks for being here.
It.
Phillips 4 number, Nevada.com. Mm-hmm. And we're so happy that you're here. You took time out of your busy campaign schedule to stop by and talk about Nevada politics and about your campaign and how it's going. And the floor is yours. We're so glad that you're here, and we have a lot to talk about.
We have a ton to talk about. I don't even know where to begin. I've been on the campaign trail over a year now, and I officially filed last April, and I announced, before that, but I've been on the trail for a long time, and now I'm traveling every, couple of days. Well, the first part of this month, I was in Reno 3 times, and Tuesday I was in Hawthorne. Tomorrow I'll be in Hawthorne again. Monday I'll be in Mesquite. Tuesday, Carson City. Thursday, Pahrump. Friday again in Reno. And that's just, for this past week. But I love it. And this is something that I'm very passionate about.
Yeah.
And the reason I got into politics, I think I've told you, was back during COVID. And when they were shutting down our businesses and telling us we were non-essential and masking us and our kids and telling us we had to get a jab in order to keep our job, couldn't go to church, all of these things that they did, all of that was unconstitutional. And it was un-American. And I didn't recognize the country I was living in. And I thought, I'm going to hop into politics because I'm used to serving, negotiating, and representing for people. That's what I've done my entire career. So to me, that comes naturally. And I have a servant's heart, and I've been involved in children's charities for 30 years. And I have my own nonprofit that I started to help hungry children and trafficked children in our valley.
Amazing.
So serving people to me is just second nature. That's one of the gifts that God gave me, and that's how he made me. That's how I'm built. So I'm made for this, and I'm built for this, and I'm good at it, and I love people. And that is the thing. Being on the campaign trail, you meet so many people, and they're just awesome. Yeah. And from all over Nevada. I've been all over this state, and I love it. So...
Well, our founding fathers, that was actually originally the intention. You would serve your country and then go back to being a farmer, a real estate broker. You didn't become a career politician for 40, 50 years. Right. And that's the problem with politics, in my opinion. National level, state level. It's like you become, how do you not, over that, Joe Biden, half a century, 50 years, 36 years as a senator, that alone could disqualify him from anything.
I don't know that he's ever even had a real job, to be honest, or even owned a business.
He doesn't have one now, that's for sure.
No.
But to your point about your being from Nevada, a real estate broker, you're going to serve, and then you'll go back to being a private citizen, which is the way we're supposed to do it. And so, again, I think that's fantastic.
And I've signed the term limits pledge.
Really?
Just so you know, and your audience knows, yes, and the No New Tax pledge. Because I firmly believe that if we had term limits in place, that would fix a lot of things, a lot of corruption. Goodness. These guys get in there for so long, like you were saying, they become so wealthy and self-serving, and they are getting wealthy off the backs of the American people.
100%.
And another thing, one of the first things I would do is bar Congress and their family members from buying and selling stock. They shouldn't be allowed to do it. It's insider trading. However, which way you cut that pie, that's exactly what that is.
Yes.
And they shouldn't be allowed to do that. And I don't believe in that at all.
I don't either.
It seems so obvious too when you say that. And that's something that actually is a pretty bipartisan. If you ask most people, because obviously with our backgrounds as musicians and entertainers, we know a ton of people on the other side, and that is kind of been something that has been talked about for a very long time. There does need to be term limits.
I think over 75% of Americans for the last 30 years have said thumbs up to that. But when Obama had all 3 chambers of the government, didn't talk about it. Neither did Bush. No one, both sides. I think this is where both sides can be a little guilty of selfishness, because the best thing for the country is to serve a term or two and get out.
Yeah.
That's enough already.
Yeah, and the concept of the uniparty in the swamp is very real. So that's why it isn't necessarily at this point. I think most people, the public in general, are getting wise to that fact. Like, okay, well, maybe it isn't so much the left or the right. It's just this massive swamp of people. That's why people like yourself need to be
100%, yes.
replace those
we need
people.
you, a fresh voice, a fresh face, no agenda except to make life better for Nevadans in D.C. and make our state a better place to live in.
Well, and
Thank
who
you.
better to represent Nevadans than someone that has been here for so long? This is my home.
Yeah.
This is, I've been here for so long. My kids were born and raised here. I started my business here. I started my nonprofit here. I've worked here. This is my family, and this is where it is. Yeah. But we get so many of these politicians that come in, from other states, just looking for a seat, just looking to run for office, trying Nevada out. And it's not their home.
No.
And that's the stuff that I can't stand seeing. And, some of these people are wealthy.
Yeah.
And they can throw millions around and try and buy the seat. And that also is not going to serve us. But going back to term limits for a second, not only does Congress need term limits, I believe also federal judges and Supreme Court justices should also, every single office, they should have term limits, because that's how corruption starts. Yes. And that's, some of these judges are so corrupt, they're so biased, they can't see past their own political views. No. We see this happening with these Trump trials. Yes. And this is political persecution and selective prosecution is what this is. Yes, there's a two-tier justice system. Mm-hmm. Biden has weaponized the DOJ and the FBI. And it is so clear to see we cannot have a successful society and an equal and fair society with these things happening. This needs to stop. So until we get freedom fighters, patriots, until we overhaul DC and get these corrupted officials out of there, and I'm talking both sides of the aisle. It's not just one. No. Because we see who the rhinos are. We see how they're selling out, Americans, and they spend our money wildly and recklessly, and they have put our country in a position, especially these that have been there for decades, like you're talking about. Mm-hmm. They have put our country financially in peril, and our kids and grandkids are going to be on the hook for all of this, and we are on a trajectory. It's unsustainable,
of course,
at this point.
And what people don't realize, I don't think, is the unfunded liabilities. Mm-hmm. So they see $35 trillion or $34 trillion national debt, and that's a ginormous number, and it's untenable. But it's much bigger than that, because the unfunded liabilities, welfare, Social Security, Medicare, makes it more like $300 trillion. It's really out. The numbers beyond comprehension, and it's getting bigger every day. So I know you wanted to talk a lot about Nevada itself, your opponents. You want to head in that direction?
Yeah, so we were just up in Reno last week for debates, and
I watched yours on Facebook.
Oh, did you?
Oh,
great.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thanks. That was the third one. So they've held two up in Reno, and we had one back in November, I believe it was, in Pahrump. And, being a new candidate, this was new for me, but it was exciting, and I loved, participating and doing this. And I think that is a way for Nevada voters to see who you are, see what your responses are, because I think we should be answering to all the people and answer all questions and be transparent. And I love going to places where you speak for a little bit, but then you have the Q&A. So that the people can ask whatever question that they want. And I was in Goldfield one time, which is a couple hours north of here, and there was a group of people that came to the community center, and I stood for an hour and a half for a Q&A session. And I was going to stand there all day until they were done asking questions. And so an hour and a half had passed, and I said, does anybody else have any questions? And I looked around at every single person, and everyone was looking around and they were all quiet. And I think you answered everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does anyone ever throw in a question about real estate? Like, what color should I paint my front door to sell the house the fastest? She's like, not here for that. No. Not here for that. It's a good question.
Yeah.
But
nobody asks about
they don't do that.
About
Okay.
that. No, we stick to politics. There's too many issues in our country to address, but
Yeah.
I
But
love
But they have an expert there. Like,
Yeah.
but we want to sell our house. Sorry.
But that actually begs the question. So there's obviously everybody's eyes are on the national election, everything going on with Trump and Biden and all of that, and that's getting almost all of the media attention. I think something that I've seen as I've gotten a little more involved in local politics, the parties and whatnot, is that there isn't a real understanding, at least among the people, of how the local politics works. And we did a show a couple weeks ago called "All Politics is Local," and that's that old saying. And I think people need to get a little more involved in their local scene, but I don't think people really know how it's done. Like, what's great about your website is that you've got a section that says, change, register to vote, change, switch your, that's
Super helpful.
It's very
Super
helpful.
helpful.
And it needs to be that simple.
Yeah.
But I think on the whole, just the people, the electorate, whatever you want to refer to them, they don't understand how any of this stuff really works because everybody's so focused on the national scene. So
Well, and with the way the country's going with Bidenomics, they're also trying to put food on the table.
Sure.
And feed their kids.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
put gas in their tanks.
yeah, and
It's
what they don't realize though is that if they concentrated a little more about what's happening locally,
100%. Yep.
that that could really have an effect
Yes.
in their home. So if you could shed some light on that.
when I first got into politics, I started going to the county party meetings. We had First Fridays. I don't know if you ever went to those,
Oh, yeah.
down at Ahern. I joined some of the women Republican groups, and they have once a month dinners. I was doing a podcast. I mean, I joined different groups and went to everything politics. And if you start looking into these things, there is a ton. There's a ton of opportunities to join, and there's wonderful people in this city that are involved, that care. I mean, these women, they are boots on the ground, and these women, they raise money, they door knock, they are involved, and they support candidates. And it's just amazing how many people, are involved in that. But you look at the other side of that, and there is a huge apathy problem as far as the people that they don't want to get into the weeds of politics, and it's controversial, and you don't want to say anything on your social media because people are scared.
Yeah. I'm on the other side of that, Stephanie.
Yeah, well, I am too. But for the general public, people just kind of tend to shy away from that stuff, which I understand and I get that. I am much more bold, and that's why I stood up to run, because
and one thing that we mentioned on our show about politics being local is we understand what you just said. Makes perfect sense. You don't want to get censored. You don't want to get canceled. You don't want to offend anybody. But here's the thing. The folks on the left scream from the hilltops what they think. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being quiet, A. And B, when you say, I don't want to talk about politics, what you're really saying is, I don't want to talk about healthcare, banking, inflation, the money supply. I mean, the
Immigration.
government regulates all that stuff. So to not talk about politics is not talking about the money in your pocket, the house that you live in. I mean, they're involved in all of it, unfortunately. We believe in a limited, smaller government, and the Democrats want to put it into everything. They want to expand it more and more and more. That's not good. So at least I try to have that conversation with my friends on the left. Like, can we at least agree about that?
Yeah.
It's a starting point.
Politics affects every day of our lives.
Unfortunately, it does.
And everything.
Yeah.
And it's so important who we elect, who we have representing us, because they're supposed to be representing us and being public servants. And a lot of times they're just there, for social hour and the parties and all the prestige and, all this stuff. And they forget about us back here at home.
Yes.
So we need someone who really is doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
And back to the local politics, people can go to county commission meetings, they can go to city council, and they can see what's happening. And these people have quite a bit of power of what happens in our city. And so there's lots of opportunity. They can go to the state legislature and sit in and listen to those things and be involved in see the bills that are presented and what they're voting on. And there were a bunch of them that I wrote opposition, for, that were presented. So if people would get involved, and I tell people it's so important, it's about your kids, it's about your job, it's about your home.
Yes.
I mean, just every single thing is affected.
Yes.
So
So I think this might be a good time to mention this. June 11th,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, is a very, very important day.
It is.
That's 11.
Yeah, it's the
June
primary.
11 is
Yes. So early voting starts May 25th, which is next Saturday. It's coming quick. And June 11th.
early voting for the primary.
For the primary.
Yeah.
For
Primary.
June 11th primary, right. And there are a dozen Republicans on my ticket
Wow.
for the United States Senate seat.
It's 11 too many.
There's a bunch. Yeah.
It's 11 too many for our liking.
There's a bunch. And but what I tell people too, because a lot of people don't realize, there's a lot of nonpartisan and independents that are registered. They can't vote for me as a Republican because they are not Republicans. But anyone can switch their registration to Republican, vote for me, and then they can switch back.
Is there a time limit on that? Like you have to switch by this date?
I want to say it's same day.
Okay.
Voted that you can do that. You can do it online. It's on my website,
Yes.
phillipsfornevada.com. And go to that, and just on the home page, you just scroll down a little bit, and there's a link there. It goes to the Secretary of State office, and you can change your registration and vote. But people, they don't realize that you can't. It's a closed primary. You can't.
That's exactly what I was talking about. There, so many people are just ignorant to the actual process, and that's what I was
Right.
going to ask you. Like,
Yeah.
is it a matter of apathy, or is it a matter of just ignorance, or kind of light ignorance? They just don't have the time to learn about this stuff, and you've made it
Yeah.
easy with the little button on the website.
Yeah.
It has to be that simple.
Thank you. I think that it's, we all get caught up with our kids' work, all the sports, if your kids are involved in sports, and you're just running all the time. And, I've been a single mom for a long time, and I know what that's like to own a business, and you're working, 24/7, especially in the real estate business. You are kind of on call, and you have to go when your clients are ready to go.
Yeah.
And having kids and running them back and forth to school and their sport programs and, all of this. So it's a lot. So people, I think, get tied up with their lives, and they look at this stuff as, politics is controversial and cumbersome, and it's depressing.
It is depressing.
It's depressing. We look at what's happening in our country, and I think a lot of people want to shut that out because they think, what can I do? What can I do? Well, it's not just one. It's ones that stand up, unite people, and are doing this for the right reasons.
Right.
And people need to get out and vote, because your vote is your voice. You may not have time or want to get involved in politics or do anything else. You can at least vote. That is our duty and a responsibility, and we have that right. People fought for that right.
Yes.
So we should not take that for granted. And I think that we take a lot of things for granted here in America, and we have our freedoms, but we need to be grateful for those. And that's really important to me. And in the primary, since we're talking about that, usually 18 to 20% of people vote in the primary.
Jeez.
Exactly.
That's not enough.
Exactly.
It's so bad. In the last primary, it was 25%,
A little bit better.
but still.
Yeah, not good.
So when you have a list of people that are running on this ticket, especially this seat is super important.
Yes, it is.
That we have this seat. And for people to not be interested and to not vote, because this is who we're sending to the general election. And this is something that people miss. They look at these list of candidates and they're short-sighted and they see the primary. But we have to send the person who's going to beat Jackie Rosen, okay, in the general. So I say, let's look at strategy. We know that they're going to run on abortion. They've been running on abortion, right? We saw what
60
happened
years,
in the midterms.
Yeah.
But especially the last election, and now that gets people to the voting booth. It's emotional for people. So, and plus they, like to gaslight us and all this fear mongering and all this narrative that they say, oh, Republicans are taking away women's reproductive rights. They have this narrative and this wording that scares people, and that is untrue. That is untrue.
Completely untrue.
So anyway, when you're looking at the general, I believe that me going against Jackie, I'm a woman, I'm a mom, and I can speak to this much better than a man can debate her on that subject alone, just that dynamic. And also when you have a woman going after a woman, because you know that how politics and the attack ads and you know how that goes, it's just that whole dynamic is so much different when you put a woman against her.
It's true.
And
It's true.
hands down, I believe that I am the only one that can really beat her. And I know that's a lot to say, and people will say, oh gosh, you sound conceited, but I just believe, I look at that strategy and I look at that matchup and how that would go. And I put each of these guys against her. And when they're going to hit that subject, there is no way they're going to combat that.
What's amazing to me is how visible you are. I mean, you're everywhere all the time. And what's also amazing to me is how someone like a Jackie Rosen, yes, I'm going to go after Jackie Rosen, who's had the seat for a long time, is never anywhere. I never see her anywhere. And if she's out and about, I'm not seeing it. But my point is, they become, not only lazy is the right word, entitled.
Yeah.
Like they're part of this political.
It's a good word.
Entitled's a good word. They're now part of this political class. They got the DNC behind them, and they just don't feel like it's necessary to actually connect with the electorate. That's exactly the wrong approach, in my opinion. With social media, everyone, a camera on every phone, you should be visible. You're a public servant at the end of the day. The seat that you have, you're a steward of that seat. It doesn't belong to you. You need to go out and serve the electorate. And I don't see that on the left, and especially in this state. I see them it's preaching to the choir. They just talk to their own kind and don't reach across the aisle ever.
Well, that's
and
why
that's
they
such a shame to me.
Yeah, that's why they can keep the same talking points going. Like you said, the abortion thing, when in actual, like for example, in the state of Nevada, it was codified, back in
It's
what?
legal
Like, it's
up to
like-
6 months.
Yeah, exactly. And so there's no point in even having that argument. But most people don't know that because they're not engaged with the conversation at all.
You're right. They don't know that. And then all the commercials that came out last cycle, the Democrats put out that said this Republican politician and that one is going to ban abortion. Well, nobody can. So if that's going to change, that has to go back on the ballot for the people to vote on that. And
So they're campaigning on lies. They're
it's
campaigning on just lies.
complete
My goodness.
lies,
Of course
and
they
they're
are.
gaslighting women across this country. And that is what just kills me, because they didn't fight back last cycle on that narrative. And that's what we need to do. It's just telling the truth. We just need to tell the truth so that people know what the law is. And I can't ban it. It's no politician in this state can ban that.
Well, and Roe versus Wade going away didn't ban anything. It threw it back to the states.
No, it's back to, which is where it belongs.
Absolutely.
It's not constitutionally a federal issue.
No.
I don't believe it belongs on the federal issue. And
No, I agree.
The government needs to stay out of medical and healthcare. I mean, they just need to stay out
Yes.
of everything. They've gotten way too big
Way too big.
for their britches. So
They certainly didn't do that in 2020. That's for
yeah,
sure.
I know. But speaking of entitlement, that makes me think of the debates and the two candidates, Sam and Gunter, that don't show up to any of the debates. They have refused to debate us, and they have the most money in the race. And Gunter has put in millions of his own money to bring his level up to what Sam has in his campaign. And
It's not a golfing tournament, by the
me-
way. It's an election. It's not a golfing tournament. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous to me. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah,
it's just,
no.
I think it's shameful. It's shameful behavior.
yeah. So I think in their minds, because Sam said he's not going to debate any of us, he'll debate Jackie, and that's it. So in his mind, that tells me that he believes he's already won the primary. And then Gunter comes in and throws in his money to kind of elevate himself in his mind to Sam. And I think they think they're entitled to it because of the money, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that politics is so much about money because we're missing quality people because money gets in the way. And I always say money doesn't make a candidate, and it certainly doesn't qualify a candidate. But these people that refuse to show up and debate the rest of us because they think it's beneath them is just, I think that it's disgusting. And that is a very entitled and a very arrogant attitude. And I don't believe they should get any votes because of that attitude alone, because you carry that attitude over and you have a seat as powerful as this. Can you imagine the entitlement and the arrogance that's going to, get inflated when they're there?
Yeah.
So you start little like this and it just gets worse. And we don't need those kind of people because they're not going to serve us.
No,
Yeah.
I agree.
Now, and now speaking of some of these kind of local issues, talk a little bit about, because I know that on your website I was kind of looking at some of the issues, and you kind of educated me just by virtue of going to your website on certain things. Like you mentioned, there's like the land grab issue,
30 by 30.
There's all of these issues that I just don't think most people are even aware of. So I would love to please educate me on that.
So in the last debate, sorry, not the last one, the one before that in Reno, it was first brought up. And I had asked the audience, and there was probably 250 people there, at least 300. And I said, has anyone heard of 30 by 30? And there were 2 or 3 people that raised their hand. That was it.
The movie? Not the movie.
Not a movie, guys.
Not the movie.
So the first week Biden was in office, he signed an executive order, and this is in a climate change order. Okay,
of course it is.
Buried in there, a couple of paragraphs.
Of course it is.
And it's all in the name of conservation. And they want to control 30% of all land and water in our country overall by 2030. Okay. Yeah. But this is not only domestic, this is internationally. And the entire goal is by 2050 to have 50% of land and waters. Jeez. Okay. So, all the farmers you see over in Europe that are, up in arms and they're protesting and all this.
And good for them, by the way.
This is why.
Yeah.
This is why.
Yeah.
So if you read the Rosen lands bill that she has presented, and this is up in Washoe, there's 225 acres that they're taking out for conservation. 225,000. Sorry.
Exactly.
Yeah, for conservation.
And she's just for the viewers, she's also a senator here, and she's the other senator. Jackie Rosen is a Democratic senator.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So, and if you look at all of the land that Biden he's designated millions of acres to national monuments. Last August, I believe it was, in Arizona, almost 1 million acres he designated as a national monument, right? In Nevada, 500,000 acres. So under this national monument status and this conservation status, you can't use that land for anything. It is untouched. So in Nevada, our land is so rich with minerals. And when you have that, you can't mine it. You can't do anything with it. There is no recreation. There's nothing. So there's a lot that goes to this. And I encourage people to look up American Stewards for Liberty.
Okay.
And this is where I've read a lot about this. And if you read that Rosen land bill, this article that was written about it, it actually mentions the 30 by 30, and this goes right in line with that 30% of Washoe County will be controlled by this 30 by 30 land. I call it a land grab, but they have renamed it to America the Beautiful.
Well, of course they have.
Because it's all about conservation.
It's about framing it the right way.
Right.
For the
it's
electorate.
this narrative.
Yeah.
But if people would look that up and start reading about that, it is absolutely stunning. So I'm thinking, okay, are they taking this land as collateral because we owe so much to China? Are we what are we doing with this behind the scenes that nobody knows?
Right.
So I don't put anything past the government. I mean, at this point, it's so corrupted. And until we, the people, get mad enough, and until we unite and get together and vote these people out and actually have the courage to say, you know what? You're not taking our country. You're not taking our American values. You are not going to destroy and shred our Constitution, because they're doing that daily. I mean, just look at what is happening at the border. And I've been to the border.
Yes.
We can talk about that too. I don't know how much time we have left.
We have as much time as you'd like.
Anyway, but yeah, they are shredding our Constitution.
Yes.
And literally, this is an invasion into our country. And I call it treason. And people are, they're afraid sometimes to say that word. They're afraid to be bold. They're afraid to call things out the way they are.
Yeah.
I'm not. I just say it because I believe 24 is our last stand. And if we don't have fighters, if we don't have people that are courageous, that are standing up against the establishment, because you got to fight both sides.
Yes.
Just in this state, just seeing what I have seen and experienced being a candidate, it's very eye-opening. And you literally have to fight both sides. But we need fighters in there. We cannot have the go along to get along. We cannot have the self-serving establishment politicians. We can't have the puppets that are owned by Mitch McConnell. We can't have the carpetbaggers and the opportunists, because they're not here to serve. They're here to serve themselves. And that's just more the same in DC. So, but yeah, what's happening at the border is an absolute invasion. And I went in March, and I'm one of two, I believe, in my race this cycle that have gone. Everyone likes to talk about it, but they've not been. And
Well, the vice president's been there
Yeah, I was
once.
just saying, neither has our border czar.
The
right,
border
the
czar's
border
been there
czar.
once in 4 years, and she went, "Hey, everything looks great to me."
Yeah.
You're behind a
we're-
wall surrounded by Secret Service people. You can't see anything, Kamala.
It is
By design.
It's pathetic.
It's disgusting, and
Yeah.
it is an invasion. And do you mind if we talk about Ukraine for a second?
Sure.
I did some research before the show. There's a retired general. His name's McGregor. Great. He's an expert on what's happening in Ukraine. I mean, I don't think Americans are aware of how bad things are over there. I mean, we're just giving them billions
Yeah.
of dollars.
Yeah.
Ukraine was the second largest country in Europe. Now it's the fourth. They had a population of 41 million in 2022. Now it's down to 28 million. A lot of that's the war itself. A lot of people are just leaving. Like, we're out of here and never coming back. I mean, 30% of the businesses have closed. 30%. I mean, I can go on. 500,000 Ukrainian soldiers dead or seriously wounded. They're getting crushed by Russia. I didn't know this until I watched this earlier today. But Ukraine and Russia had an accord from 1992 until 2014. The CIS, they worked together on trade. They were buddies. And then Biden at the time, VP, installed the puppet governor, prime minister, and they had Russia had the Minsk Accords. They did everything they could to avoid a conflict. To say that Putin is unprovoked, is doing this in an unprovoked manner, is just simply not true. He's always said we want a buffer between us and NATO. Ukraine's a buffer state, and it's for Western Europe's protection as well, as much as it is for Russia's. I wish more Americans paid attention to the fact that we've been in an endless war with a nuclear power, the second most powerful country on the planet Earth. And ironically, on this last thing I'll say about it, I couldn't believe this, but last year alone, Russia's GDP doubled that of all G7 countries in the world combined. They've now changed their economy into a wartime economy. They spent 3% of their GDP on the military. Now it's 6%. They're ready to go forever. And for Representative Johnson to say that he's going to sweep across Europe, show me any evidence of that. Show me any evidence of Putin planning to take over Europe. He's a business person. He wants to sell them grain and energy. That's it. He doesn't want war. He didn't want the war with Ukraine. So again, Biden knows all this. They don't care. They started this. They're pushing the whole NATO narrative. By the way, NATO doesn't want them. NATO won't allow them to join NATO. Turkey, I mean, all these countries are like, no.
That would start World War III.
It would, but they don't meet the requirements to join NATO anyway. They're not a NATO country. They're not NATO ready. So it's all just what is it? Help me understand what's happening here.
What is interesting about that is that, did you ever hear of any meaningful peace talks that Biden has done and sat down with them at all?
No.
I don't think, because he doesn't, that's what Trump would do.
Of course he would.
And this never would have happened under Trump at all.
Never.
But so Biden is weak, and you can't lead by being weak.
No.
And so
or he's in on it. He's profiting so much off of it. That's
that's the other thing.
They
When I
are.
travel around the state and we talk about Ukraine, every single person has said to me, this is like a money laundering.
exactly what it is.
Exactly
And
what it is.
there was a whistleblower that said over 170 of our elected officials are getting money from this. So all we have to do is audit and follow the money.
Yep.
And they're able to do that.
Yep.
And it should be done. And it already should have been done, honestly.
Right.
But that hasn't been done. And this is one of those classic endless war things that we get into, and it's like a check. We just keep writing checks, keep sending aid and all of this. But where's the goal? Where's the plan? Where's the mission? What is the strategy? What has been laid out? There hasn't been anything laid out, which there should be. We can't go and send all this money without any kind of a strategy.
Of course.
What's the end game? It's just a money flow. Is what it is, and it's our money.
I know getting Biden unelected should be the money. I mean, I think even an average American who doesn't pay attention to politics could go, "Wow, 3 years of endless war with a country that we know can't lose. Russia can't lose. They have their standing army now is at 1.5 million people, and they can draft anyone they want at any time. Ukraine's having to bring people in from other countries. They're out. I mean, they're really getting destroyed, and not to mention So again, at our border, Biden doesn't care about our own citizens and our safety.
No.
Fentanyl, all the
Trafficking.
Trafficking.
These kids.
Exactly. And then in Ukraine, all this death and destruction and money. It's enough already. We know that we have an opportunity to see two presidents in this next election, Trump and Biden. Trump, peace in the Middle East, the Abraham Accords. He was working towards something magnificent. Biden effed it all up. He gave $10 billion to Iran and thinking, well, they're going to use it for humanitarian aid. They've been supporting terrorists for 50 years, Joe.
He's funding both sides of the war.
Exactly.
Basically.
And now he's slapping Israel's hand, telling Netanyahu, hey, take it easy. Like, you're our ally and we're fighting for our very existence, Mr. President. Yeah. How dare you?
Well, what's stunning is that just a few days ago when he said here end of last week, when he said he was going to withhold the arms aid from Israel, but it's congressionally approved aid. And so he's going against what they have already approved and is holding it hostage. Yeah. And then meanwhile signs this waiver of sanctions for Qatar and Lebanon so they can have weapons. And it's, what are you doing?
Well, ripping up the Constitution.
Well, the Supreme Court said he couldn't pay off student loans, and he went around that. Because he's Joe Biden. He's the man of the, whatever.
He did, and he went around it in a way that he did it in smaller increments instead of this overall. But it's still going around. He's still circumventing the Supreme Court and their decision. So to me, all of these things, they are trying to intentionally destroy America.
Yes.
We have this, these elites at the top that are super wealthy and they control a lot of things. And he is merely a puppet. Doing, he's cognitively, he's not there. I'm surprised they haven't invoked the 25th Amendment. And it's just disgusting to watch and to see this.
I agree.
And going down there myself and interviewing dozens of
Going to the border
and seeing this for myself, because I had to see it.
Yeah.
And I interviewed, this is all on my social media, I interviewed dozens of illegals. I had, more than a dozen coming at me at one time. And they were happy to answer, where are you from? How'd you get here? All of this. And it's exactly what I've heard and seen other videos. They're being flown into Mexico from all these other countries. And there were so many countries represented. Not one from Mexico though.
No, of course not.
And they were all men. There was one woman with her husband there from Africa. That was it. But all of these were young men, and these camps are set up by the NGOs. There's food, water, and they're there. They came out. In fact, that was where most of them were, and they came out when I pulled over there to stop and talk to them. And I went with one bodyguard. It was just myself and a bodyguard. And
you're a brave woman.
I didn't put a
you're
weapon.
A very brave woman.
Thank you.
Jeff and I together wouldn't do it. We're two cowards over here.
I know, people were like,
who need two bodyguards for each? Four.
People were like, Steph, are you crazy? Why are you doing this? But I had to see it. And my other opponent, I think Sam was the only other one that went, had an entourage and, photographers and all this. Because
it was a media event.
Photo op. And of course, Rosen did her pilgrimage down there and all this, her tour. So she could get photo ops and say that she was down there. But I thought it was important to see what was really going on. And I got a good glimpse of what is happening. And the UN is funding these people.
I know.
these
I know
flights into Mexico, and then they're bussed over to the border. They know where the wall ends. They come into these camps, and then Border Patrol comes to pick them up,
I know.
gives them a ride to another camp, and then they're shipped all over our country. So that is increased trafficking, fentanyl, and crime, and all of this. You know, they're using all of our services.
Yeah.
You know, for illegals instead of our own people, and look at how many veterans are on the street.
If I may, I read something that's made me stop in my tracks yesterday. It said $67 billion for illegals last year, $3 billion to the VA. 67 for illegals, $3 billion to the VA.
And
that sums up Joe Biden. That sums up the Democrats. That sums up a party that's selling your country out. That sums up America last. I can keep going. But that number alone is enough for any average person that just watches this podcast casually to go, wow, that seems out of balance. It is out of balance.
And the good news, the silver lining to all of this is the fact that you're starting to see people recognize this. I mean, people who, like, especially in blue states like New York and Chicago,
New
a lot
Jersey,
of people are going,
100,000 people.
They're going,
Saturday,
what is going
100,000 people
on?
at
Like,
the rally?
people who traditionally
Stunning.
vote, Democrats. So there is that lining. There are people waking up and realizing this lawfare thing looks a little sketchy.
Yeah.
Why are we sending so much money to Ukraine? People are slowly starting to. Are they going to wake up quickly enough by November? That remains to be seen. Hopefully, I remain hopeful.
The polls look promising.
Yeah, the polls look promising. So with that, because we can sit here and complain about all this stuff, and we can name call and we can point fingers all day long. We have a great time doing it. But at the end of the day, Stephanie Phillips gets elected and gets to D.C. What do you do? I mean, how do you? Because everybody, it's the Mr. Smith goes to Washington. Everybody has the best of intentions. I mean, at the end of the day, people don't trust politicians because they talk a good game. They have the best of intentions. They make it sound great. Then when they get there, the swamp has a way of, all right, well, here's a little for you and here's a little for you. So what does Stephanie Phillips do when she gets there?
Well, this is why we need to overhaul. It's not only Nevada, it's all the states. We need to get the people in there that are patriots, freedom fighters, the business owners, the teachers, the farmers, the construction workers, the average everyday American citizen.
Yeah.
The moms, the dads, the people that are actually going to stand up and fight for us.
Yeah.
And we see those. There's few of them in Congress that are fighting for us.
Right.
We need to overhaul the system, and that's going to take all of us in this country to do. But we secure our border first of all, and we shut that down. Yeah. We finish our wall, and we deport the millions that have come over and find these terrorists. They don't even know how many terrorists have come over. Just alone, 40,000 Chinese nationals have come over. They have a small army that they have built in our country over the last 3.5 years. Does anybody talk about that?
Nope.
No.
Nope. That's not news, Stephanie.
That needs to be that we need to get these people out of our country.
Yeah.
Put Remain in Mexico policy back in place. That was working. We need to take care of our border agents and, get them the money and the resources that they need.
And the numbers.
And let them do their job.
Yeah.
Right. And Biden's doing everything against that.
He certainly is.
We need to get term limits. We need to amend our Constitution and get term limits in place. We need to stop the Congress from buying and selling stock.
Yes.
We need to uphold the Constitution. We have to stop this reckless spending. We need to overhaul the DOJ and the FBI. And that's going to take a lot of effort by a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But we need to rid those of corruption and those corrupted officials. And there's plenty of whistleblowers out there. We need to stop ignoring them and actually do full investigations and get these people out of these positions of power.
Right.
We need to audit every agency in the federal government because they keep wanting to send our money all these places. You know how much fraud that there is going on. How can we find that? We can audit them. Instead of the $80 billion going to the IRS for the 87,000 IRS agents, let's put that money and let's audit the federal government.
Works for me.
This is our money. This is our government. They have made it we the government instead of we the people. And until we people stand up and put someone in there that is courageous enough to stand against the establishment and the corruption, we're going to have more of the same. And there's not a lot of people that are that bold, that are willing to stand up. You know, they might get in there and say, oh, well, gosh, this is kind of, you know, this is scary, or this, we need to play ball with these people. No, we don't. No, we don't.
No.
So until we fight back, it's going to be status quo. But there are so many things that we need to do to protect our country. We need to get meaningful funding in order to end human trafficking.
Thank you so much.
The amount of children that are held as sex slaves in our country alone, we need to toughen the penalties. These people need to go away for life without parole, or we need to put the death penalty on the table for these people. Because what they're doing to these kids, I've been involved in children's charities for decades.
It's close to your heart. I know that.
It is. And I talk about this a lot because I have known about it for so long.
Yeah.
And I have given thousands of my own money and dedicated time, you know, and that was the motivation for starting my own nonprofit. There is
Would you like to mention the nonprofit for our viewers?
It's Den Mothers, denmothers.org.
DEN?
Yeah.
denmothers.org.
denmothers.org.
Thank you.
And people need to get involved in this. More elected officials need to talk about this,
Yes, they
because
do.
Nevada is the second highest per capita in the country
It's
for
children.
trafficking.
It's children, guys. It's not politics.
kids.
It's children.
Yeah.
Minor children that are the most vulnerable people in our society. Children.
Something you think that people on both sides can and
It should be
get behind.
non-political.
Yeah,
It should be
absolutely.
non-political. It's children.
They can
My
send
goodness.
hundreds of millions of dollars to the Middle East for gender studies, and they give a mere 12 to 13 million for a national task force to fight trafficking. Are you kidding me? This is an absolute atrocity.
Yeah.
There is nobody standing up for these kids. These kids are innocent. They don't have a voice.
No, they don't.
And they are shipped all over. And this border invasion, it has made it 10 times worse.
Yeah.
That needs to be talked about. That needs to be handled. That needs to be number one. And the fentanyl that's killing our young people. I mean, I can go down the line. That border crisis has caused, I mean, look at the murders of these kids from these illegals. They have raped these kids. It is just, my gosh, it is disgusting what's happening. Meanwhile, those people in DC sit there on their little perch and they put our money at all these other things.
I know.
Instead of looking at what we really need to be focused on. So I could talk forever,
all
day long.
What we want to focus on as we wrap up the show. First of all, it's been an incredible honor to have you here today. Thank you for being the voice of Nevada. We want you to win this. We want you to win. We want you to be our next state senator. We want Jackie Rosen to go away. I wish her well. Bless her heart. But Jackie, we'd like you to lose, and we'd like her to win. In parting, what can we do as citizens, as Nevadans, how can we get you elected? What can we do to help? I know that we can donate to your campaign through your website, but can you give us some bullet points and we can wrap it up? And I think you're that bold person. A couple of things you said will stick in my head forever. Your vote is your voice. It was fantastic. You said a lot of great things. And I can tell you're coming from a place of truth and honesty. And how do we not need that in our elections, folks? How do we not need this person to be representing our state and our country? So what can we do to get you to win?
People
Please.
can volunteer to hand out
Through the website.
Yeah, through my website, you can sign up to volunteer.
Phillips for Nevada.
Yeah.
Phillips, the number 4.
Or on my contact page is my personal cell phone number.
Really?
Anybody can get a hold of me. They can email me. I have it on all of my materials. People can call me. And if they want to hand out our door hangers in their neighborhoods, great. If they want to hand out yard signs, that's awesome. If they can donate, that would be great too. There's so many ways to be involved. And even just as simple as going on my social media, sharing my posts,
Yes.
commenting, liking them, the power of social media, that's incredible.
Huge.
And if people would get out and do that, and that doesn't cost any money. That only takes seconds.
Exactly.
So just as simple as that. If somebody else has a podcast, I'll go on anybody's podcast. And I appreciate this opportunity. I appreciate
Thank you.
You guys taking the time and letting me have a voice.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. And I don't turn anybody away, because we need to talk to everybody. I need to meet as many people as I can and get that message out there. And that's.
As you're traveling the state, are you feeling a momentum in our direction?
Oh, definitely.
I think I am too, but I'm not.
Definitely.
I'm not doing it. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm sort of locked in Las Vegas because of my career, my business. You're doing a lot of traveling around the state. You're feeling things are moving the right way, and I mean the right way.
13% up, for Trump.
We're
in
13th,
Nevada,
yeah,
so,
and that's
I
the
mean,
federal thing. But in terms of you, in terms of the Republican Party here in the state,
Yeah, I believe
is the governor help? Do you have a connection with the governor? Is there any kind of support?
no, the governor endorsed Sam.
Oh,
He's already
geez.
come out and endorsed.
I didn't know that,
Yeah,
Stephanie. I'm sorry, I
because-
didn't know that.
No, that's okay
I'm sorry.
because
I didn't know
and I
that.
put a statement out about that the day after or 2 days after. And it's simply because of the money factor, which is a shame. Everyone pays attention to money and that's all they care about.
Yeah.
But Mitch McConnell chose Sam as his, hand-picked candidate. And we all know not anybody likes Mitch because you go around the state and not one person has said to me, oh, we love Mitch McConnell because he's the biggest rhino in DC and he sells us down the river every chance he gets.
Right.
And I'm willing to say that.
Yeah.
I am willing to come out and say that. And most people won't. I don't care. I was told long ago, Steph, you want to win this election? Don't talk about Mitch McConnell. Don't say this. Don't say that. And they give you this, whole list. No, I'm not going to be controlled. I'm not somebody's puppet. I'm not owned. I'm not bought and paid for.
Good for you.
I don't have any mega donors that own me. And Sam has, mega donors, people that have donated millions.
Right.
And to me, it's just, I don't care about the money and I don't have a lot of money. I'm not wealthy, but I am running this campaign as if I have all the money and I don't have a fancy campaign team and consultants like these people do. I don't have people doing a lot of this, for me at all. I travel mostly by myself throughout Nevada. I'm driving in the middle of the night, coming home at 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Probably 95% of the time I've traveled by myself and I don't mind. And I'm doing I do all my social media myself. I do a lot of this. So the job that I have taken on, and if you look at my campaign and where I've gone and what I've done compared to these others with teams and, all of this, I mean, I'm running circles around these guys.
You are.
Honestly.
And you might not have mega donors, but you've got 2 mega fans right here.
Thank you.
No, I mean
I
it. And we want
appreciate it.
mega fans out there.
Yeah,
Follow
it
Stephanie
helps.
Phillips. Please follow her. Vote for her. If you can donate $1 of anything that helps, please do that. I'm so glad that you came today. We want to talk to you again down the road if you're able to come back and see us.
Sure.
And in the meantime, whatever we can do to help you, we're at your disposal.
Yeah, this
Please.
is people's opportunity to, if they really want grassroots candidates, this is our, as Vivek says, this is our 1776 moment.
It is.
It
It
is.
is. And well,
This is it.
in social media right now, the movement is to be your authentic self, your organic, authentic self.
Yeah.
You couldn't be more that.
Oh yeah, this
I mean,
is
come
it.
on.
I don't.
But that's phenomenal.
sugarcoat.
This is what we want, folks. We want a real person that really cares to be our representative here and in DC. And I hope that you win. We want you to win. You have our vote. We're so honored that you came here today. Can I shake your hand?
Thank you, of course. Thank you. I appreciate
I'll
it.
wave from back here.
Jeff's Troy behind the scenes, Thiago Guzzi behind the
Thank
scenes.
you.
Guys, thank you so much for watching the show. We're going to give Stephanie the uncut version. She'll put it on her socials and patriotsonlyplease.com. But Stephanie for Nevada, the number 4.
Phillips for Nevada.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
It's been a minute. Phillips4nevada.com. Everything is on the site.
Right.
Please support and follow her. Thank you for your kind attention today and have a great day. And Stephanie, thank you again so much.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming
Thanks
out.
for having me. I appreciate it.